I am Tom Bennett, a retired firefighter from Roanoke, Virginia, and that Thanksgiving started like any other. I drove to my daughter Emma's house in Jacksonville, excited to see the grandkids. But when I stepped inside, my black eye caught everyone's attention. I had arrived with it hidden under a hat, but it was too swollen to conceal completely. Emma's husband, Derek, noticed first. He winked at the guests around the table and said loudly, "Looks like Tom needed a discipline lesson." Laughter rippled through the room, but I saw the tension in their eyes. My father-in-law, Roy, sat at the head of the table, pretending nothing was wrong. He carved the turkey and passed plates as if my bruised face was invisible. Emma avoided my gaze, focusing on the kids. I sat there, fork in hand, wondering how my own family had turned against me. The meal dragged on, but the real shock came later, when Roy pulled me aside and whispered that I should know my place. That wink from Derek lingered in my mind, a promise of more trouble ahead. After that awkward Thanksgiving, I returned to my small cottage in Roanoke, still nursing the black eye and the sting of Derek's words. The injury came from a fall I couldn't quite explain, but I pushed it aside, focusing on the holidays. Little did I know, the real trouble was just beginning. A few weeks later, I received a check from my insurance company. It was a payout for some minor home repairs after a storm, nothing huge, about $5,000, but it felt like a lifeline. I planned to use it to fix the roof and maybe stock up for the winter. I deposited the check at the local bank, feeling a sense of relief. My cottage was my pride, co-owned with Emma since her mother's passing years ago. It was in both our names, a way to keep things fair for the family. But as I drove home, my phone buzzed with a call from Emma. Her voice was clipped, urgent. "Dad, we need to talk about your finances. Roy and Derek are worried you're not managing things well." I pulled over, confused. "Managing what?" "The payout is for the house, Emma. It's ours." She insisted I come to Jacksonville right away. Against my better judgment, I made the trip the next day. When I arrived, Roy and Derek were waiting in the living room, papers spread out on the coffee table. Emma hovered nearby, holding one of the grandkids. Roy, with his stern face and wire-rimmed glasses, slid the check stub across to me. "Tom, this money is for the household. You can't just keep it to yourself." I stared at him. The check was in my name alone, but he acted like it was communal property. Derek leaned in, his eyes sharp. "We've been handling the family accounts for years. Let us help. Just give us access to your online banking. It's for order, you know, household order." I felt a chill. My online banking was private, tied to my retirement savings and the cottage mortgage. "No," I said firmly. "The cottage is co-owned, but my accounts are mine. This payout is for repairs, not whatever you're planning." Roy's expression hardened. He exchanged a glance with Derek, who nodded subtly. Emma shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. They pressed me for hours. Roy talked about family unity and how I was getting forgetful in my old age. Derek pulled up my bank app on his tablet, showing login screens as if to demonstrate how easy it would be. "Sign here," Roy said finally, pushing a stack of papers toward me. The top one read Voluntary Guardianship Agreement. It outlined giving them control over my finances, decisions about the property, everything. "It's just temporary," Derek added with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "To keep things straight." I scanned the document. It was dense, full of legal jargon about incapacity and oversight. My heart sank. This wasn't about help, it was control. They wanted the cottage, or at least its value, funneled into their hands. Emma's silence spoke volumes. She was in on it, or at least complicit. I remembered how she'd inherited her mother's share but never contributed to upkeep. Now, with Roy pulling strings, they saw me as an obstacle. "I won't sign," I declared, standing up. The room tensed. Derek's face flushed. But Roy stayed calm, folding the papers neatly. Think about it, Tom. Family comes first. I left that night, the agreement burning a hole in my jacket pocket where I'd stuffed it. Back home, I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I changed all my passwords, bank, email, everything. I set up two-factor authentication and even called my bank to flag any unusual activity. It felt like fortifying a bunker. But they didn't stop. Calls came daily. Emma texted about concerns from relatives, hinting I was isolating myself. Roy left voicemails, his voice paternal yet edged, "Don't make this hard, son-in-law." Derek was bolder, emailing demands for the new passwords, claiming it was for the kids' future. I ignored them, but the pressure built. Bills arrived that I hadn't authorized, small ones at first, like utility overages on the cottage account they somehow accessed before my changes. One evening, as I sat reviewing my statements, the phone rang again. It was my accountant, Nate, whom I'd known since my fire department days. "Tom, I've noticed attempts to log into your accounts. And there's a weird request floating around to change beneficiaries on your policies. You didn't approve that, did you?" I hadn't. My policies listed Emma as primary, but now someone was trying to redirect to Roy's brother. Panic set in. This was no accident, it was a coordinated grab. I confided in Nate, who promised to monitor everything. Meanwhile, the voluntary guardianship papers arrived by certified mail, with a note from Roy, "Sign or we'll have to involve authorities." I tore them up. The cottage was my sanctuary, built with my own hands after retiring. Co-owned or not, I wouldn't let them strip it away. But doubt crept in, were they right? Was I slipping? No, I told myself. This was manipulation, plain and simple. Days turned into weeks. I avoided family gatherings, focusing on small repairs with the insurance money. The roof got patched, the porch reinforced. Each nail I hammered felt like defiance. Yet, their calls persisted, each one chipping at my resolve. Emma's last message hurt the most, "Dad, you're making us choose sides." Choose? They had chosen long ago. In quiet moments, I wondered how it came to this. Roy had always been overbearing, but with Derek's ambition and Emma's passivity, it formed a perfect storm. I fortified my home, literally and figuratively, installing better locks and a simple security camera. The financial pressure was their weapon, but I wouldn't yield. Not yet. The pressure from Roy and Derek didn't ease after I changed my passwords and ignored their demands. If anything, it intensified, like a fire I couldn't fully extinguish from my department days. I stuck to my routine in the cottage, morning coffee on the porch, checking the mail, tending to the small garden my late wife loved. But their calls turned into visits, unannounced and unwelcome. One crisp afternoon in early December, I heard a truck rumble up the drive. It was Derek, alone at first, but I spotted Roy's car pulling in behind. I met them at the door, not inviting them in. "What now?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Derek held a folder, the same guardianship papers, now marked up with notes. "Tom, this has to stop. You're endangering the family by hoarding that money." Roy stepped forward, his face a mask of concern. "We're just looking out for you. Sign, and we can all move on." I refused again, crossing my arms. "This is my home. Leave." Derek's temper flared. He pushed past me onto the porch, grabbing my arm to pull me toward the railing. "You think you can fight this?" In the struggle, I lost my footing and hit the wooden railing hard. Pain shot through my side, but I caught myself before falling further. No blows landed, just the force of his shove and my own momentum. I straightened up, breathing heavy, glaring at him. "Get out. Now." They retreated, but not before Derek muttered something about proving your instability. Roy shook his head sadly, as if I were the problem. I watched them drive off, my hands shaking. The porch railing creaked under my grip, a reminder of how close things had come. I called my neighbor, old Hank from across the street, to check on me later. But word spread fast in our small community. By evening, Emma arrived with the kids in tow, her face pale. Neighbors had gathered subtly, Mrs. Ellis from next door, peeking over her fence, and a couple walking their dog. Emma knelt by me on the porch steps, where I'd sat to catch my breath. "Dad, what happened? You tripped?" Her voice was cold, calculated, loud enough for the onlookers. I stared at her. "Tripped?" Derek shoved me. She glanced at the neighbors, then back at me with feigned sympathy. "No, Dad. You slipped on the ice. Everyone saw it. You're not as steady as you used to be." The neighbors murmured agreement, buying her story without question. Mrs. Ellis even nodded. Poor Tom, getting forgetful in his age. I felt isolated, like the ground shifting under me. Emma helped me inside, but her touch was perfunctory. Once the kids were settled, she pulled out her phone. "I have to tell the family. This proves you need help." Before I could protest, she was texting, her fingers flying. That night, my phone lit up with messages from relatives. "Aunt Clara, heard about your fall, Tom. Be careful. Cousin Mark, Emma says you're having memory lapses. Maybe see a doctor." Then Roy's group email to the extended family, "Tom's been paranoid lately, accusing us of things that aren't true. He's isolating himself, forgetting bills and appointments. We're worried about his safety." Attached were photos, blurry shots of my porch, timestamped from earlier, making it look like I'd wandered out confused. I read them all, fury building. Paranoia? This was their fabrication, twisting a simple refusal into a narrative of decline. I called Emma right then. "How could you let them lie like this?" Her response was icy. "Dad, it's for your own good. You're not thinking straight." She hung up, and the messages kept coming, sympathy laced with doubt. My brother in Ohio texted, "Roy says you're seeing things. Need me to come check?" Sleep evaded me. I paced the cottage, the walls feeling closer. The next day, more neighbors stopped by, their concern mirroring Emma's script. "Heard you tripped, Tom. Roy mentioned your memory." I defended myself quietly, but it fell on deaf ears. Their reality was reshaping mine, one whisper at a time. I considered calling the police, but what proof did I have? Just bruises and words. Meanwhile, the financial probes continued. Nate, my accountant, emailed updates, more login attempts, flagged and blocked. "Someone's trying to reroute your retirement funds, Tom. Stay vigilant." I installed that doorbell camera I'd been meaning to, capturing the empty driveway at night. But the emotional toll mounted. Relatives distanced themselves, holiday cards arrived with notes about praying for your health. Emma visited again midweek, this time with Derek lurking in the car. She brought groceries, a peace offering that rang false. "Sign the papers, Dad. Roy can handle things while you rest." I saw the manipulation clearly now, the shove on the porch as evidence, her cold dismissal to the neighbors as cover. "No," I said. "This ends when you choose truth over them." She left without another word, her car kicking up gravel. As days blurred, I reached out to a few trusted friends from the fire department. They listened without judgment, offering to vouch for me. But the family's web tightened. Roy called a family meeting via video, excluding me, where they reportedly discussed my deteriorating state. Leaks came back, plans to petition for guardianship formally if I didn't comply. I sat alone one evening, staring at the guardianship papers I'd kept. The escalation wasn't just financial, it was a full assault on my reality. Neighbors waved cautiously now, their eyes holding pity. Emma's cold words echoed, you tripped. But I knew the truth. The shove, the lies, the spreading doubt, it was all to break me. I wouldn't let it. Instead, I started documenting everything: dates, messages, camera footage. This manipulation had to stop, or I'd lose more than my home, I'd lose myself. In the quiet of the cottage, I vowed to fight back. The fire in me, honed from years of service, hadn't dimmed. Their reality might bend for others. But not for me. Not anymore. The days after the porch incident blurred into a haze of suspicion and solitude. I barely left the cottage, double-checking locks and reviewing the new doorbell camera footage obsessively. It captured nothing incriminating, just empty shadows and the occasional deer wandering by. The family's messages tapered off, replaced by an eerie silence that felt like the calm before a storm. Relatives stopped responding to my calls, and even Hank next door waved from afar, avoiding deeper conversation. I confided in Nate over the phone, my accountant and old friend. They're painting me as unstable, Nate. But my accounts, any news? His voice was steady, reassuring. Tom, I've got alerts set up. Last night, there were 3 more failed login attempts from an IP in Jacksonville. And get this, a request came through to your insurance provider to change beneficiaries. They wanted to shift everything to Roy's brother, Harold. I intercepted it and notified the company. You're safe for now, but this is escalating. I thanked him, hanging up with a knot in my stomach. Beneficiaries? That meant they weren't just after the cottage, they wanted my entire nest egg, built from years of firefighting overtime and careful saving. I spent the afternoon sorting papers, making copies of bank statements and emails. The guardianship form stared back at me from the desk, a constant reminder. Around 4 o'clock, the mail truck pulled up. Zoe Ramirez, the carrier I'd known for years, hopped out with her usual smile. She was in her mid-30s, efficient and chatty, always with a story about the neighborhood. Afternoon, Mr. Bennett. Got a package for you, looks important. She handed over a thick envelope, then paused, glancing around. Everything okay? Heard some rumors from the family grapevine. I forced a nod. Just family stuff, Zoe. Thanks. But as she turned to leave, she hesitated, pulling something from her vest. Actually, Tom, mind if I show you this? I think it might help. She held up her phone, playing a short video. It was from her body camera, standard issue for carriers these days. The footage showed her route earlier that week, stopping at a house down the street from Emma's. But the audio caught my attention immediately. There, in the frame, was Roy's truck parked nearby. The camera picked up voices as Zoe delivered mail to a neighbor. Roy was on the phone, his back to her, but clear enough. Derek, listen, next time he refuses, record everything. Get footage of him forgetting things, acting paranoid. We need evidence of incompetence for the guardianship. Make it look natural. Derek's voice crackled through the speaker. Got it, Roy. I'll handle the porch setup if needed. Zoe had captured it accidentally, the mic sensitive to nearby conversations. She stopped the video, her face serious. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but this sounded off. Thought you should see it. Here's a copy. I downloaded it before my shift ended. I replayed it twice, my pulse racing. This was proof, undeniable audio of them plotting to fabricate my incompetence. Zoe, you have no idea. Thank you. She shrugged. Just doing my route. Stay safe, okay? With that, she drove off, leaving me with the phone file clutched in my hand. I transferred it to my computer immediately, backing it up on a USB. For the first time in weeks, hope flickered. This wasn't just my word against theirs, it was recorded reality. That evening, Nate called back with more details. Tom, I dug deeper into those access attempts. Traces lead to a device registered in Derek's name. And the beneficiary change? It was submitted with a forged signature scan, yours, altered poorly. I sent everything to your email. If you lawyer up, this could bury them. I paced the kitchen, the video looping in my mind. Roy coaching Derek to record evidence. It explained the photos they'd sent around, the staged concern. They weren't protecting me, they were building a case to strip me bare. The next morning, I reached out to an old contact from the fire department, my attorney Carter Ellis. We'd crossed paths during benefit disputes years ago, and he owed me a favor. Carter, I need help. Eviction threat on the cottage, protection from harassment. I've got footage. He agreed to meet in Roanoke the following day. As I prepared, more pieces fell into place. The doorbell camera pinged, an unfamiliar car idling across the street. No one approached, but it felt like surveillance. Nate emailed a full report, timelines of login attempts synced with family visits, plus bank logs showing queries for my account balances from public terminals near Jacksonville. Strange requests too, he added. Someone called pretending to be you, asking about joint assets with Emma. I stalled them. It all connected, the insurance payout interception attempt, the guardianship push, now this beneficiary ploy. Roy's brother Harold, I recalled, was a shady real estate guy always sniffing around properties. I spent the day fortifying my case. Printed the video transcript, noted timestamps, cross-referenced with messages. Zoe's footage was gold, her body cam metadata would prove authenticity. Doubt still nagged, would a judge believe an old retiree over family? But Nate's vigilance and Zoe's accidental witness gave me leverage. Carter arrived at noon, reviewing everything in my living room. This is solid, Tom. Financial elder abuse angle, plus the manipulation. We'll file for eviction to clear title on the cottage and a protection order. Court date in 2 weeks. As he left, I felt a shift. The isolation cracked open. I called Hank, sharing the basics. Not paranoia after all, he chuckled. Word spread cautiously among trusted neighbors. The family's silence broke with a text from Emma, heard you're causing trouble. Stop before it's too late. I didn't reply. Instead, I watched the video again, Roy's voice echoing, evidence of incompetence. Their plan exposed, I stood taller. This witness, unexpected as she was, turned the tide. No more manipulation, now it was my turn to set the record straight. The week flew by in preparations. Nate monitored accounts daily, blocking phantom charges. Zoe stopped by once more, confirming she'd keep the original file if needed. Community watches out for its own, she said. With Carter's filing submitted, anticipation built. The courtroom loomed, but armed with truth, I was ready. Their reality twist had unraveled, thread by thread. The 2 weeks leading to the court date tested my resolve like nothing since my firefighting days. I stayed holed up in the cottage, reviewing documents with Carter daily. He was a bulldog in a suit, poring over the evidence with me over coffee. Tom, we've got a strong case. Eviction to reclaim full control of the cottage, plus a protection order against the harassment. The financial abuse angle will stick, those login attempts and beneficiary changes scream intent. I nodded, but nerves gnawed at me. This was my daughter, her husband, her father. Could I face them in a courtroom? The day arrived crisp and clear, mid-January. I drove to the county courthouse in Roanoke, Hank insisting on tagging along for moral support. The building loomed solid, a far cry from the chaos at home. Inside, the air smelled of polished wood and stale coffee. Carter met me at the entrance, files in hand. Ready? I was, as much as I could be. We filed into the small courtroom, where Judge Aaliyah Sanchez presided. She was sharp-eyed, no nonsense, her robe crisp against the bench. Emma, Derek, and Roy sat on the other side, represented by a slick lawyer named Harlan. Emma avoided my gaze, clutching a tissue. Derek smirked faintly, Roy stone-faced. Harlan opened with their counterclaim, guardianship for me, citing incapacity from the porch, trip, and family reports of paranoia. He presented blurry photos of the railing, witness statements from neighbors echoing Emma's story. Mr. Bennett's actions endanger himself and the family assets, Harlan argued. Judge Sanchez listened impassively, then turned to Carter. Your response? Carter stood tall. Your Honor, this is a clear case of manipulation and attempted financial elder abuse. We seek eviction of any co-ownership claims tied to fraudulent intent and a protection order. He cued the projector. First came the doorbell camera footage from the porch day, clear audio of Derek's shove. My stumble against the railing, no trip in sight. Gasps rippled from the gallery. Emma's face paled, Derek shifted uncomfortably. Next, the bank login logs from Nate. Timestamps showed access attempts synced with their visits, IP addresses tracing to Jacksonville. These weren't oversights, Carter said. They targeted Mr. Bennett's retirement funds and insurance policies. He displayed the forged beneficiary request, highlighting the botched signature scan. Harlan objected, calling it circumstantial, but Judge Sanchez waved it off. Proceed. The bombshell was Zoe's body camera video. Carter played it, Roy's voice coaching Derek to record evidence of incompetence, the plot laid bare. This metadata is intact, Carter noted, as an expert witness. Digital forensics analyst Mia Torres took the stand. She was young, precise, testifying under oath. I've verified the file, timestamps match the delivery route, no edits. Audio integrity confirmed via waveform analysis. Judge Sanchez leaned forward, eyes narrowing at Roy. Mr. Harlan, explain this. Harlan stammered, claiming it was out of context, but the damage was done. Roy's contradictory statements came next, depositions where he denied any financial involvement, yet emails showed him directing the beneficiary change. Carter cross-examined Roy gently but firmly. You say Mr. Bennett is paranoid, yet here you are plotting evidence against him. Why? Roy fidgeted, mumbling about family protection. The judge's expression hardened. To seal it, my former fire department chief, Harlan Big H. Wilkins, testified. He'd known me for 30 years, from rookies to retirement. Tom's sharp as ever, Big H said, his voice gravelly from years of commands. No memory lapses, no paranoia. Saved my life in that warehouse blaze, man sound of mind and body. He detailed my post-retirement activities, volunteer shifts, community events. Harlan tried to discredit him as biased, but Big H's record spoke for itself. The gallery murmured as Carter wrapped up. Judge Sanchez called a brief recess, then reconvened. She reviewed everything on her tablet, the footage, logs, metadata confirmation. This court finds clear evidence of attempted financial exploitation, she ruled. The eviction is upheld. Co-ownership claims by Ms. Bennett are severed due to fraudulent intent. Protection order granted against Ms. Bennett, Mr. Derek Harlan, and Mr. Roy Wilkins, no contact for 1 year. Emma's eyes met mine briefly, filled with shock. Derek whispered furiously to Harlan, who looked defeated. Roy stared at the floor. The judge continued, counterclaim dismissed. Matter referred to Adult Protective Services for investigation into elder abuse. Mr. Bennett, you retain full control of your assets. Relief washed over me, mixed with sorrow. Carter clapped my shoulder as we exited. You did it, Tom. Outside, reporters from the local paper waited. Word had leaked about the family drama. I waved them off, focusing on Hank's grin. Knew you had it in you. Back home, I pored over the ruling, the cottage papers now solely mine. Nate called, account secured. No more funny business. Zoe texted congratulations, her video pivotal. Even Big H dropped by with a 6-pack. Proud of you, old-timer. But victory tasted bittersweet. Emma's cold facade in court replayed in my mind. Had I lost her forever? The protection order meant no calls, no visits. Roy and Derek's schemes crumbled, but the family's fracture ran deep. I walked the porch, railing sturdy under my hand. No more shoves, no more lies. The reversal was complete, my reality affirmed. Yet, as snow dusted the garden, I wondered what came next. The courtroom had righted wrongs, but healing? That was on me. In the quiet evenings, I reflected on the evidence that saved me: Zoe's accidental capture, Nate's vigilance, Big H's testimony. Judge Sanchez's gavel echoed justice, but it couldn't mend broken ties. I filed the papers away, the cottage truly mine again. Strength returned, one day at a time. The gavel's echo from the courtroom still rang in my ears as I drove back to the cottage that January afternoon. Judge Sanchez's ruling felt like a weight lifted. But the drive home was heavy with reflection. Carter had handed me the official documents: eviction upheld, co-ownership severed, protection order in place. No contact from Emma, Derek, or Roy for a full year. The counterclaim for guardianship dismissed outright. And the referral to Adult Protective Services? That meant investigators would dig into their financial schemes, potentially leading to charges. I gripped the steering wheel, the Roanoke Hills blurring past. Justice, yes, but at what cost? Arriving home, I found Hank waiting on the porch with a thermos of coffee. Heard the news from Carter, he said, clapping my back. You beat the bastards fair and square. I managed a smile, unlocking the door. Inside, the cottage felt different, truly mine now, no shadows of shared title looming. I spread the papers on the kitchen table, reading the judgment line by line. The court finds sufficient evidence of attempted financial exploitation and manipulation, it stated. My assets, the insurance payout, the retirement funds, all secured. The cottage deed would transfer fully to me within weeks. Nate called as I brewed tea. Tom, fantastic work. I've locked down every account, and the insurance company confirmed the beneficiary block. Roy's brother Harold won't touch a dime. His enthusiasm buoyed me, but he added a caution: APS is involved now. Expect questions from them soon. Adult Protective Services, that phrase hit hard. It branded me as vulnerable, an elderly victim, even though I'd fought back. I thanked him and hung up, staring at the phone. No messages from family, of course. The protection order silenced them legally. The consequences unfolded quickly. A week later, an APS caseworker named Linda visited. She was kind-eyed, notepad in hand, sitting across from me in the living room. Mr. Bennett, we're investigating the referral for potential elder financial abuse. Can you walk me through the events? I did, from the Thanksgiving black eye to the porch shove, the login attempts, and Zoe's video. She took notes diligently, reviewing the court files I'd copied. This aligns with patterns we've seen: family pressuring for control, she said. We'll interview the others and report back. In the meantime, resources are available if you need support. Her visit stirred mixed feelings. Relief that someone official validated my story, but sorrow too. Emma was my daughter, how had it come to investigations? I imagined her shock in court, the tissue crumpling in her hand. Derek's smirk fading, Roy's stone face cracking. They lost the case, but I lost the illusion of family unity. Nights grew long. I'd sit by the window, watching leaves skitter across the yard, wondering if she'd reach out through a lawyer or back channel. She didn't. The eviction process finalized smoothly. A notary arrived, stamping the new deed. The cottage, co-owned since my wife's death, was now solely mine. I made small changes, replaced the porch railing with sturdy oak, added motion lights. Practical steps, but symbolic too. No more vulnerabilities for them to exploit. Big H stopped by often, sharing stories from the department to pull me out of my thoughts. You regained your home, Tom. That's victory. Zoe dropped off mail with a wink, heard APS is on it. Proud of you. Even neighbors like Mrs. Ellis, who'd bought the lies before, offered quiet apologies over fences. Yet, the loss of my relationship with Emma cut deepest. The grandkids' faces haunted me, little ones caught in the crossfire. No more holidays with them, no bedtime stories. The protection order extended to her, a barrier I never wanted. I wrote a letter once, explaining everything, but tore it up. Words wouldn't bridge the chasm she'd helped dig. Roy and Derek's consequences loomed larger. Whispers from Nate suggested audits on their finances, questions about joint accounts with Emma. APS's referral could mean fines, restitution, even criminal probes if fraud stuck. Months passed in a rhythm of recovery. Spring brought warmer days. I planted the garden fully, rows of tomatoes and herbs thriving. The cottage hummed with independence, no intercepted checks, no demands. But solitude amplified the ache. I joined a local retirees group, sharing bits of my story without details. Their nods of understanding helped. Carter checked in monthly, all quiet on the legal front. You're free. One evening in May, as rain pattered the roof, I sat with a photo album. Pictures of Emma as a child, laughing at barbecues. Tears came unbidden. I'd regained my home, my security, but the daughter I'd raised slipped away, complicit in the control. The judgment was clear, their actions abusive, manipulative. Consequences enforced boundaries. Yet, forgiveness flickered dimly. Maybe time would heal, post-order. For now, I focused on the present, the sturdy walls, the quiet peace. APS closed their case in June, emailing a summary, substantiated concerns of financial exploitation, recommendations for monitoring. No charges yet, but the shadow lingered for them. I felt lighter, the burden shifted. Regaining the home was tangible, keys in hand, deed filed. But the emotional loss? That was the true price. I walked the property line, surveying my domain. No fear, just resolve. The fire in me burned steady, illuminating a path forward alone, but a year after the courtroom victory, Thanksgiving arrived with a chill in the Jacksonville air. I'd sold the Roanoke cottage and moved to a modest home here, closer to old friends but far from Emma's circle. The protection order had lifted months ago, but I hadn't heard from her. Still, I decided to host, turkey roasting, tables set for neighbors and department buddies. No family drama this time, just warmth and real company. I invited Emma with a simple card, come see the truth. One chance. She arrived alone, hesitant at the door, eyes scanning the cozy setup. Guests chatted in the living room, Hank, Zoe, Big H, and my neighbor Rachel, who'd become a steadfast friend through it all. Emma sat stiffly as we ate, avoiding small talk. I waited until dessert, then pulled out a folder. Emma, before you leave, hear this. Nate had uncovered the final piece during routine checks. While I'd visited last Thanksgiving, Roy had forged documents to reassign my entire insurance policy to his brother Harold, not just beneficiaries, but ownership transfer. My accountant exposed it with time-stamped emails and a notary mismatch. Your grandfather tried to steal everything, I said quietly, sliding printouts her way. For his own gain, not family. Emma's face drained of color as she read. No denial, just silence. She stood abruptly, chair scraping, and walked out without a word. The door clicked shut behind her. Guests murmured sympathy, but I felt closure settle. No explosion, no reconciliation, just truth laid bare. Rachel stayed, helping clear plates. Her quiet support through the year had grounded me, walks, shared meals, no pressure. As the evening wound down, I stepped onto the porch, breathing free. The book of betrayal closed, a new chapter opened, fear-free in my own home. Friends inside laughed, my chosen family now.